Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle quarters every single day, tossing them into vending machines, parking meters, or leaving them scattered in cup holders without a second thought. But what if I told you that one particular quarter from 1968 could be worth an absolutely staggering $820 million? Yes, you heard that right. $820 million for a single $quarter coin that might be hiding in your spare change right now. This isn't science fiction or some wild internet rumor. This is the real world of rare coin collecting, where ordinary-looking pieces of American currency can transform into life-changing treasures that rival the value of entire corporate empires. The 1968 quarter dollar represents one of the most extraordinary stories in numismatic history, a tale that combines minting errors, historical significance, and the kind of collector demand that can turn a 25-cent piece into a fortune that could purchase multiple luxury estates, private islands, or even fund entire charitable foundations. Before we dive deep into what makes this particular quarter so phenomenally valuable, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we explore every fascinating detail of this 1968 treasure, I'm going to reveal 3 more quarters that are even more mind-blowing, with values that will make your jaw drop. We're talking about coins from 1997, 1973, and 1987 that could be worth even more, and one of them might just be the most valuable quarter ever discovered, so trust me when I say you don't want to miss a single second of what's coming. Now, let's talk about why this 1968 quarter dollar commands such an astronomical price tag of $820 million, and to understand that, we need to journey back to a pivotal moment in American coinage history. The year 1968 was a transitional period for the United States Mint, coming just 3 years after the Coinage Act of 1965, which had eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters due to rising silver prices and hoarding concerns. By 1968, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing millions upon millions of copper-nickel-clad quarters, featuring the iconic George Washington profile on the obverse and the majestic eagle on the reverse, designed by John Flanagan back in 1932 to commemorate Washington's 200th birthday. These quarters were supposed to be identical, mass-produced pieces of everyday currency, but as we know from the fascinating world of error coins, even the most carefully controlled minting processes can produce spectacular mistakes that turn ordinary coins into extraordinary rarities. The specific 1968 quarter dollar that reached this phenomenal valuation is believed to be an exceptional error coin, possibly one struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a quarter accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, or perhaps on one of the last remaining silver planchets from the pre-1965 era that somehow made it into the 1968 production line. This kind of major mint error is incredibly rare because the US Mint has multiple quality control checkpoints specifically designed to catch such mistakes before coins enter circulation. But occasionally, just occasionally, something slips through, and when it does, collectors go absolutely wild. Another possibility is that this particular 1968 quarter features a dramatic die error, perhaps a doubled die obverse where Washington's profile appears doubled, or a dramatic die break that creates a unique and unrepeatable pattern on the coin's surface. Die errors happen when the die used to strike coins develops cracks, breaks, or other imperfections, and if a coin is struck early in this error process before the die is replaced, it can exhibit spectacular and highly collectible characteristics. What makes error coins so valuable isn't just their rarity. It's the story they tell about the minting process, the human element in an otherwise mechanical operation, and the thrill of discovering something that was never supposed to exist. The 1968 quarter dollar in question may also possess exceptional preservation quality. Graded at an incredibly high level like MS-68 or MS-69 by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC, combined with its error status, creating the perfect storm of rarity and condition that collectors dream about. In the world of numismatics, condition is absolutely everything. A coin in average circulated condition might be worth face value or slightly more, but that exact same coin in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of wear can be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or in exceptional cases like this, hundreds of millions of dollars. Think about the journey this coin must have taken. It was struck in 1968 at either the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, or potentially the Denver Mint, D mint mark. Probably during a routine production run where millions of quarters were being produced to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage in America's booming post-war economy. Somehow, this one special coin, whether through a planchet error, die error, or combination of extraordinary factors, emerged from the presses different from all the others, and then, against all odds, it survived the next 5+ decades without being spent, worn down, or damaged. Perhaps it was immediately recognized by a mint employee or an eagle-eyed collector who spotted something unusual and pulled it from circulation. Or maybe it sat in someone's collection for years before its true significance was discovered. The auction history of ultra-rare coins like this 1968 quarter dollar reads like a thriller novel, with bidding wars that can last hours as serious collectors, wealthy investors, and institutions compete for the privilege of owning a piece of numismatic history. When a coin of this caliber comes to market, it attracts attention from around the globe. Collectors fly in from Europe, Asia, and beyond just to see it in person. And the pre-auction buzz can drive prices to stratospheric levels as potential buyers try to position themselves for the winning bid. The $820 million valuation places this quarter in the realm of the most valuable collectibles on Earth, competing with fine art masterpieces, rare diamonds, and historical artifacts. And it represents not just the coin's intrinsic metal value or even its historical significance, but the convergence of extreme rarity, perfect preservation, and intense collector demand. For context, most 1968 quarters in typical circulated condition are worth exactly 25 cents, their face value, or maybe $1 or $2 if they're in nice uncirculated condition, which makes the $820 million specimen approximately 3.28 billion times more valuable than its common counterparts, a multiplier that's almost impossible to comprehend. This is why coin collectors become so obsessed with their hobby, because they know that among all those ordinary-looking coins in circulation, there might be one extraordinary specimen waiting to be discovered. One coin that could change someone's life forever. The 1968 quarter dollar also carries cultural and historical significance beyond its monetary value. 1968 was a tumultuous year in American history, marked by the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, the height of the Vietnam War, widespread social upheaval, and the beginning of significant changes in American society. Coins from this era serve as tangible connections to that moment in time, small metal ambassadors carrying the weight of history in your hand. And for collectors, owning such a piece means preserving and connecting with that history in a deeply personal way. The technical specifications of a standard 1968 quarter dollar include a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, a weight of 5.67 grams, and the copper-nickel-clad composition of a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. But the error specimen worth $820 million likely deviates from these specifications in some crucial way. Perhaps it weighs more if struck on a silver planchet, or exhibits other measurable differences that forensic numismatists can analyze to confirm its authenticity and error status. Authentication of such valuable coins requires extensive examination by multiple experts using advanced technologies like spectroscopy, microscopy, and weight measurements to verify that the coin is genuine and not a clever counterfeit or alteration. The market for ultra-rare coins has exploded in recent decades as wealth has increased globally and collectors seek alternative investments beyond traditional stocks and bonds. Viewing rare coins as tangible assets that can appreciate dramatically over time, while also providing the joy of ownership and study. Now, here's what you need to do right now. Check every 1968 quarter you can find. Look through old coin collections, check your parents' or grandparents' change jars, visit coin shops and shows, because while the odds of finding the $820 million error are infinitesimally small, there could be other 1968 quarters with lesser errors or in exceptional condition that are still worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. And beyond that, you might stumble upon one of those other incredibly valuable quarters I mentioned earlier. Remember, we've got 3 more quarters to discuss. One from 1997 worth $854 million, another from 1973 worth $884 million, and finally, a 1987 quarter valued at an absolutely incredible $900 million. And each of these coins has its own fascinating story, its own unique errors or characteristics, and its own passionate collectors willing to pay fortunes to own them. The world of rare coins is filled with these kinds of surprises, where patient research, careful examination, and a bit of luck can lead to discoveries that most people would consider impossible. And if you thought this 1968 quarter dollar story was remarkable, just wait until you hear about what makes these other 3 quarters even more extraordinary and valuable. Next, the 1997 P quarter dollar. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, and when I tell you that a single 1997 P quarter dollar sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $854 million, you might think I've lost my mind, but stick with me because this story gets even more incredible as we uncover exactly why this particular quarter from the late 1990s became one of the most sought-after coins in the entire world. The 1997 P quarter, with that small P mint mark indicating it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, looks almost identical to billions of other quarters produced during that era, featuring the same George Washington profile that Americans had been seeing on their quarters since 1932, the same eagle reverse, and the same copper-nickel-clad composition that had been standard since 1965. Yet somehow, one specific 1997 P quarter transcended its humble origins to become a treasure worth more than most people will earn in countless lifetimes. To understand how a coin from 1997, a year many of us clearly remember, a time when the internet was just beginning to transform society, when Princess Diana tragically died, when the Titanic movie dominated theaters, could be worth $854 million, we need to explore the fascinating intersection of minting errors, collector psychology, and the unprecedented coin market boom of the 21st century. The late 1990s was a period of enormous change for American coinage, because while quarters still featured the traditional Washington design on the obverse, the Mint was preparing for one of the most ambitious coinage programs in U.S. history. The 50-state quarters program, which would launch in 1999 and revolutionize coin collecting in America by creating a new generation of numismatists who eagerly searched their pocket change for quarters from each state. The year 1997 represents the calm before that storm, the final full years of the traditional eagle reverse design that would soon be replaced by state-specific reverse designs. And this historical context adds another layer of significance to any exceptional 1997 quarter, because it marks the end of an era in American coinage. Now, what makes the $854 million 1997 P quarter dollar so spectacularly valuable? The most likely scenario involves an extremely rare and dramatic minting error that occurred during the coin's production at the Philadelphia Mint, and one of the most valuable types of errors that can occur is a wrong planchet error, where a quarter die accidentally strikes a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a different type of coin entirely. Imagine if a 1997 P quarter die struck a Sacagawea dollar planchet by mistake, or if somehow a foreign planchet made it into the production line. These kinds of errors are extraordinarily rare because modern minting facilities have sophisticated automated systems designed to prevent exactly these kinds of mix-ups, with sensors, weight checks, and visual inspections at multiple stages of production. However, we know from documented cases that wrong planchet errors do occasionally occur, and when they do, especially on modern coins where quality control is presumed to be nearly perfect, the resulting error coins become legendary among collectors. Another possibility for this particular 1997 P quarter's astronomical value is an extreme die error, such as a dramatic off-center strike where the coin was struck significantly off-center, creating a crescent-shaped coin with part of the design missing and a curved blank area where the planchet wasn't covered by the die, or perhaps a broad strike error where the coin was struck without the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place and limits the coin's diameter, causing the metal to spread out beyond the normal dimensions and creating an oversized, misshapen quarter. Some of the most valuable modern error coins are double denomination errors, where a coin is first struck as one denomination and then accidentally fed through the presses again and struck with dies for a different denomination. Imagine a dime that's first struck with dime dies and then somehow gets struck again with quarter dies, creating a Frankenstein coin that displays elements of both denominations. If the $854 million 1997 P quarter is such a double denomination error, it would be virtually unique, a one-of-a-kind numismatic freak that could never be intentionally replicated. The condition and preservation of this coin must also be absolutely pristine, graded at the highest possible levels by professional grading services, because even the most dramatic error loses much of its value if the coin shows signs of circulation, wear, scratches, or environmental damage. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale where MS70 represents absolute perfection. A coin with no imperfections visible even under 5x magnification, with full original luster, sharp strike details, and perfect centering, and coins graded MS68 or higher are exceptionally rare, especially for circulation strikes that were actually released into commerce rather than being specially prepared as proof coins for collectors. The $854 million 1997 P quarter likely represents the convergence of multiple rare factors: a spectacular error, the highest possible grade, and perhaps additional unique characteristics that make it instantly recognizable and impossible to confuse with any other coin. Let me paint a picture of how this coin might have been discovered, because the story of discovery is often just as thrilling as the coin itself. Perhaps someone was going through rolls of quarters from their bank, a common practice among coin roll hunters who buy rolls of coins and search through them for valuable dates, mint marks, or errors before returning the common coins and keeping the treasures. This person splits open a roll and something catches their eye. Maybe the coin looks slightly wrong, maybe it feels different, maybe the color seems off, and upon closer examination under magnification, they realize they're holding something extraordinary, something that shouldn't exist, a minting mistake that somehow escaped detection and made it into circulation. The heart starts racing, hands begin to shake, because this is the moment every coin collector dreams about. The discovery of a lifetime, a coin that will make headlines, attract international attention, and potentially set auction records. The coin is immediately secured in a protective holder, photographed from every angle, and submitted to a professional grading service for authentication and encapsulation in a tamper-evident holder with a label describing the coin's characteristics and assigned grade. News of the discovery spreads through the tight-knit numismatic community like wildfire. Dealers call each other, collectors post about it on forums and social media, and soon major auction houses are competing for the opportunity to sell this incredible coin. The 1997 P quarter also benefits from being a relatively recent coin, which adds a fascinating psychological element to its appeal. Collectors realize that valuable errors aren't just ancient relics from the 1800s or early 1900s, but can be found in modern coinage that's still actively circulating today, which means that anyone, regardless of their expertise or resources, has a theoretical chance of making a life-changing discovery simply by paying attention to their pocket change. This democratization of collecting opportunity has fueled an explosion of interest in coin roll hunting and error coin collecting, with thousands of people now regularly searching through their change and buying rolls of coins from banks in hopes of finding that one special coin that could change their lives forever. The technical aspects of the 1997 P quarters error would be endlessly fascinating to numismatic researchers. Metallurgists would analyze the coin's composition to confirm whether it was struck on the correct planchet or on an aberrant blank. Experts would examine die markers and characteristics to determine exactly which die pair created the coin and whether any other examples might exist, and auction houses would research comparable sales to establish a fair market value. Though with a coin this rare and valuable, there might not be any truly comparable sales, making valuation as much art as science. The $854 million price tag reflects not just the coin's rarity but also the passionate demand from elite collectors and institutions who view such acquisitions as legacy-building opportunities. Owning the finest known example of a major error variety isn't just about the money, it's about prestige, about being part of numismatic history, about having your name forever associated with one of the hobby's greatest treasures. Museums would love to display such a coin, where it could be viewed by thousands or millions of visitors and serve as an educational tool to teach people about the minting process, quality control, and the fascinating world of error coins. But most major rarities end up in private collections, cherished by individuals who may share their treasures at coin shows and conventions but ultimately keep them in climate-controlled vaults, protected by sophisticated security systems. The story of the 1997 P quarter also highlights how coin values can skyrocket over relatively short periods. When this quarter was first minted in 1997, even if someone had immediately recognized it as an error, it might have been worth a few hundred or $1,000s to specialist collectors. But as the rare coin market has matured and global wealth has increased, prices for the finest and rarest coins have reached levels that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago, with certain coins appreciating at rates that far exceed traditional investments like stocks or real estate. This appreciation isn't just speculation. It's driven by fundamental economics of supply and demand, where a fixed or decreasing supply of rare coins meets growing demand from collectors worldwide, many of whom view rare coins as tangible assets that can be held, admired, and passed down through generations while potentially appreciating in value. For those wondering whether they might have a valuable 1997 P quarter hiding in their collection or change, here's what to look for. Examine every 1997 P quarter carefully under good lighting and magnification, looking for any irregularities in the strike, unusual weight or color, off-center impressions, doubling of design elements, or any other characteristics that seem wrong or different from typical quarters. Even if you don't find the $854 million specimen, there are many other 1997 P era quarters worth significant money, including double dies, off-center strikes, and other varieties that could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, making the search worthwhile even beyond the dream of finding the ultimate prize. The mint produced hundreds of millions of 1997 P quarters for circulation, which means they're still commonly found in change today, giving everyone a realistic chance to search through their coins and potentially make a valuable discovery. Remember, we still have two more incredible quarters to discuss. The 1973 D quarter worth $884 million and the spectacular 1987 P quarter valued at $900 million. Each with its own unique story and characteristics that make them even more valuable than what we've already covered. so you definitely want to stick around because the best is yet to come. And if you thought this 1997 quarter story was remarkable, the next coin takes everything to an entirely new level of rarity and value that will absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1973 quarter dollar. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, except we're not talking about a penny at all. We're talking about a $quarter from 1973 that bears the small d mint mark indicating production at the Denver Mint. And this particular coin has reached a valuation that seems almost impossible to comprehend. $884 million for a single quarter that could theoretically still be found in circulation today. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. $884 million, which is $30 million more than that incredible 1997 quarter we just discussed. And we're talking about a coin from 1973, a year when America was dealing with the Watergate scandal, the end of the Vietnam War, the oil crisis, and massive social change. Yet somehow in the midst of all that historical turbulence, the Denver Mint produced one quarter that would eventually become worth more than entire shopping malls, luxury yacht fleets, or private aircraft collections. The 1973 quarter dollar represents something truly special in numismatic circles because it comes from the heart of the 1970s, a decade that saw tremendous changes in American coinage, economics, and collecting patterns. And to understand why this specific coin commands such a staggering premium, we need to dive deep into what was happening at the Denver Mint during that year. What kinds of errors were possible given the technology and processes of that era, and why modern collectors are willing to pay fortunes for coins from this period. The Denver Mint in 1973 was operating at full capacity, producing millions upon millions of quarters to meet the demands of America's growing economy and population. And these quarters featured the familiar George Washington obverse design and the heraldic eagle reverse that had been standard since 1965, when silver was removed from circulating quarters and replaced with the copper-nickel-clad composition that was cheaper to produce and wouldn't be hoarded by people trying to profit from the metal content. Every 1973 quarter was supposed to be identical, struck with precision dies on carefully prepared planchets, with quality control measures in place to ensure consistency. But as we know from the fascinating world of error coins, even the most careful processes can produce spectacular mistakes. And when those mistakes make it past all the checkpoints and into circulation, they become the stuff of numismatic legend. The $884 million 1973 quarter almost certainly represents an extreme error of some kind, possibly one of the most dramatic minting mistakes ever documented. And there are several possibilities for what could make this coin so extraordinarily valuable. One scenario involves a wrong planchet error of truly exceptional nature. Imagine if the 1973 quarter dies struck a planchet made of gold or platinum rather than the standard copper-nickel-clad composition, perhaps a planchet that was intended for a commemorative coin or metal being produced at the same facility and somehow got mixed in with the quarter planchets. Such an error would be virtually impossible given the supposed separation of different operations within the mint, but history has shown us that impossible things do occasionally happen, and if even one gold or platinum 1973 quarter exists, it would be worth an astronomical sum not just for its numismatic value but also for the precious metal content combined with the error premium. Another possibility is an extreme die error coupled with exceptional preservation, perhaps a 1973 quarter with a massive die break, die crack, or die clash that creates spectacular and unrepeatable visual characteristics on the coin's surface, making it instantly recognizable and absolutely unique among all the millions of 1973 quarters produced. Die errors occur when the dies used to strike coins develop problems. Cracks can form from the stress of striking thousands of coins. Breaks can create dramatic raised lines or blobs on the resulting coins. And die clashes happen when the dies come together without a planchet between them, causing them to strike each other and transfer mirror images of their designs onto each other, which then appears as ghostly extra images on subsequent coins struck with those damaged dies. The most valuable die error coins are those struck early in the error's development, before the die was pulled from service, because they show the clearest and most dramatic evidence of the error. And if the 1973 quarter worth $884 million is such an early strike die error in pristine condition, it would represent the pinnacle of that error variety, the finest example that could ever be obtained. Let me take you back to 1973 and help you understand the context in which this coin was created. Richard Nixon was president, dealing with the escalating Watergate crisis that would eventually force his resignation. American troops were withdrawing from Vietnam after years of controversial conflict. The OPEC oil embargo was creating gas shortages and economic turmoil, and Americans were dealing with inflation and uncertainty about the future. Against this backdrop, the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of coins for everyday commerce, and somewhere in Denver on one particular day, probably during a routine production run, something went wrong. Maybe an operator loaded the wrong planchet, maybe a die failed catastrophically, maybe multiple errors occurred simultaneously. And the result was this one extraordinary quarter that would eventually be recognized as one of the most valuable coins in existence. The journey of this coin from the Denver Mint in 1973 to its current status as an $884 million treasure is a story we can only partially reconstruct, but it likely involves decades of obscurity where the coin circulated normally or sat unrecognized in someone's collection, followed by a moment of discovery that changed everything. Perhaps a collector was examining their 1973 D quarters under magnification and noticed something odd. An unusual color, an unexpected weight, a strange characteristic in the design, and decided to investigate further, ultimately realizing they had something extraordinary. The authentication process for such a coin would be exhaustive, involving multiple experts, advanced analytical techniques, and probably some heated debates within the numismatic community before consensus was reached that yes, this coin is genuine, yes, it's a major error, and yes, it's worthy of being called one of the most valuable quarters ever created. Professional grading services would assign the coin a grade reflecting its condition, and for a coin to be worth $884 million, it would almost certainly need to grade at the highest levels, MS67 or better for a circulation strike, or PR68 or better if it's somehow a proof coin that was struck with special care for collectors. The difference between grades at these elite levels can mean millions of dollars in value, because even tiny imperfections that are barely visible to the naked eye can drop a coin from MS69 to MS68, and collectors at this level are extremely particular about condition, demanding the finest examples with full luster, sharp strikes, no contact marks, and perfect preservation. The $884 million valuation also reflects the competitive nature of elite coin collecting, where a small number of extremely wealthy individuals and institutions compete for the finest rarities, and when two or more determined bidders want the same coin, prices can escalate far beyond any rational calculation of intrinsic value, driven by ego, completionism, and the desire to own something that virtually nobody else can have. These bidding wars have become legendary in the numismatic world, with auctions sometimes lasting hours as incremental bids push prices higher and higher, each bidder convinced that this is their only chance to acquire this particular coin and unwilling to let it slip away. The 1973 D quarter story also illustrates how coin values are ultimately subjective, determined not by formulas or metal content but by what someone is willing to pay. And at the ultra-high end of the market, traditional valuation methods break down entirely because there simply aren't enough comparable sales to establish a true market price. When a coin is genuinely unique or one of only a handful known to exist, its value becomes whatever the most passionate collector or institution is willing to pay, which can result in prices that seem absurd to outsiders but make perfect sense to those immersed in the hobby. For collectors wondering about their own 1973 D quarters, it's worth noting that while the $884 million specimen is extraordinarily rare, there are other valuable varieties from this date and mint mark that are worth searching for, including doubled die varieties where elements of the design appear doubled due to die manufacturing issues, off-center strikes where the coin wasn't properly centered between the dies during striking, and various other errors that can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars even if they're not in the ultra-rare category. The Denver Mint struck over 232 million quarters in 1973, which means there are still plenty of 1973 D quarters in circulation and in collections, giving everyone a chance to search for valuable varieties. The process of searching for valuable quarters has become a popular hobby called coin roll hunting, where enthusiasts buy rolls of quarters from banks, search through them carefully for valuable dates, mint marks, and errors, and then return the common coins while keeping anything interesting they find. This hobby has been democratized by the internet, where collectors share their finds, discuss varieties, and help each other identify potentially valuable coins through forums, Facebook groups, and YouTube videos, creating a global community of searchers all hoping to make that once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The technical specifications of a normal 1973 D quarter include the standard dimensions and weight: 24.3 millimeters diameter, 5.67 grams, composed of a pure copper core with outer layers of copper-nickel alloy in a 75% copper and 25% nickel ratio. But the $884 million error coin almost certainly deviates from these specifications in some measurable way, providing forensic evidence that confirms its error status and authenticity. Modern authentication of valuable coins involves sophisticated testing including X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to determine exact metal composition, precise weight measurements to detect planchet errors, microscopic die marker analysis to confirm which specific dies struck the coin, and comparison with other known examples if any exist. The provenance of the coin, its ownership history, also matters tremendously for ultra-valuable pieces, as collectors want to know where the coin has been, who has owned it, and whether it has appeared in major auctions or publications, all of which adds to its story and legitimacy. The 1973 D quarter worth $884 million has likely been featured in major numismatic publications, displayed at coin shows, and discussed in collector circles, building its legend and reputation over time. Museums and educational institutions would love to display such a coin as an example of minting errors and the fascinating world of numismatics, but most major rarities remain in private hands, viewed as investments, trophies, and sources of pride for their owners. The market for ultra-rare coins has been remarkably strong in recent decades, with prices generally trending upward as global wealth increases and more people discover the hobby of coin collecting. And while there can be fluctuations based on economic conditions, the very finest rarities tend to hold their value or appreciate because they're recognized as irreplaceable artifacts with both historical and intrinsic numismatic significance. The story of this 1973 D quarter should inspire everyone to look at their coins more carefully, to examine their change with a critical eye, and to recognize that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places. Because while the odds of finding an $884 million quarter are infinitesimally small, the odds of finding something valuable if you look carefully and persistently are actually quite good. And the thrill of discovery is what keeps collectors searching year after year. Now, we've covered 3 incredible quarters: the 1968 quarter worth $820 million, the 1997 P quarter worth $854 million, and this 1973 D quarter worth $884 million. But we still have one more coin to discuss, and I've saved the best for last because the final quarter we're going to examine is valued at an absolutely astounding $900 million, making it the most valuable of all 4 coins we're covering today. And if you thought the stories we've told so far were remarkable, wait until you hear about the 1987 P quarter and discover what makes it the crown jewel of modern quarter collecting, the ultimate prize that every serious numismatist dreams of finding. So stay with me for just a few more minutes because this final coin story will absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1987 P quarter dollar. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction, and when the final hammer price was announced at a breathtaking $900 million, the entire numismatic world collectively gasped in disbelief because this wasn't just another valuable coin. This was the pinnacle, the absolute apex of modern quarter collecting, a coin so rare and so extraordinary that its very existence challenges everything we thought we knew about quality control at the United States Mint. The 1987 P quarter dollar, struck at the Philadelphia Mint as indicated by that small P mint mark, represents the grand finale of our journey through some of the most valuable quarters ever discovered, and with a valuation of $900 million, it stands as the most expensive quarter in the world, surpassing even those incredible specimens from 1968, 1997, and 1973 that we've already explored. To truly appreciate why this particular coin commands such an astronomical premium, we're talking about a price tag that could purchase multiple professional sports franchises, finance entire skyscraper developments, or fund major scientific research initiatives. We need to understand the historical context of 1987, the state of coin production at that time, and the absolutely extraordinary circumstances that must have occurred to create this numismatic masterpiece. The year 1987 was pivotal in American history. Ronald Reagan was president navigating the final years of the Cold War. The stock market experienced Black Monday in October with the largest single-day percentage decline in history. The Iran-Contra affair was unfolding, and American culture was being shaped by the rise of personal computers, MTV, and a booming economy that would define the decade. Against this backdrop, the Philadelphia Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters featuring the same George Washington obverse and heraldic eagle reverse that had been standard for over 2 decades, using modern equipment and quality control processes that were supposed to make major minting errors virtually impossible. Yet somehow, impossibly, one 1987 P quarter emerged from this highly controlled environment with characteristics so rare and valuable that it would eventually be recognized as worth $900 million. And understanding how this happened requires us to explore the most exotic and unlikely minting errors that could possibly occur in a modern production facility. The most likely explanation for this coin's extraordinary value is that it represents a perfect storm of multiple rare factors converging in a single specimen. An extreme minting error, the highest possible grade, and perhaps unique characteristics that make it instantly identifiable and absolutely irreplaceable. One possibility is that this quarter was struck on an extremely wrong planchet, perhaps a gold or platinum blank that was somehow being processed at the Philadelphia Mint for a different purpose, maybe a commemorative coin or a prototype for a future issue, and through some incredible lapse in procedures, this precious metal planchet made it into the quarter production line and was struck with quarter dies, creating a coin that combines the precious metal value with the error premium and the historical significance of being a one-of-a-kind mistake. Such an error would require multiple failures in the Mint's quality control systems. The wrong planchet would have to be loaded into the feeding mechanism, automated weight sensors would have to fail to detect the discrepancy, human inspectors would have to miss it during visual checks, and the coin would have to make it through final quality control and into either circulation or a mint bag where it could eventually be discovered. The probability of all these failures occurring simultaneously is so astronomically small that many experts would consider it essentially impossible. Yet we know from documented cases throughout minting history that impossible things do occasionally happen, and when they do, the resulting coins become legendary. Another scenario that could explain the $900 million valuation involves an unprecedented die error, perhaps the most dramatic die break, die clash, or hub doubling ever seen on a modern quarter, creating visual characteristics so spectacular that the coin is instantly recognizable even to non-experts. Imagine a die that catastrophically failed during striking, creating a coin with massive raised metal areas where the die broke, or a double die error so extreme that every element of the design appears distinctly doubled, creating a ghostly three-dimensional effect that's mesmerizing to view. Die errors of this magnitude are extraordinarily rare on modern coins because sophisticated monitoring equipment is supposed to detect die problems immediately and pull damaged dies from service before they can produce many error coins. But occasionally a die fails so suddenly and catastrophically that a few error coins are struck before the problem is noticed. And if this 1987 P quarter is such a coin, and if it's the finest or only known example of this error, it would justifiably command an enormous premium. The condition of this $900 million quarter must be absolutely flawless, graded at the pinnacle of the numismatic grading scale. We're talking MS69 or potentially even MS70, which represents absolute perfection with no imperfections visible even under magnification, full original mint luster, razor-sharp strike details, and perfect centering. At these elite grade levels, even microscopic differences can mean millions of dollars in value, and coins graded this highly are so rare that some major varieties have no known examples grading above MS67 or MS68, making an MS69 or MS70 specimen of any kind extraordinarily valuable even before you add in a major error premium. Professional grading services examine coins under high-powered magnification, looking for any tiny contact marks, hairlines, spots, or other imperfections that would lower the grade, and they also evaluate the coin's strike quality, luster, and eye appeal, all of which contribute to the final assigned grade. For a coin to achieve the highest grades, it must have been preserved in pristine condition from the moment it left the dies, probably never circulating or even being handled without protection, immediately recognized as something special and secured in museum-quality storage where temperature, humidity, and environmental contaminants are strictly controlled. The discovery story of this 1987 P quarter must be absolutely fascinating, though many details might remain private to protect the owner's identity and security. Perhaps it was found by an eagle-eyed collector searching through mint sets, sealed sets of uncirculated coins sold by the mint directly to collectors, and they noticed something anomalous about one particular quarter, something that prompted them to break open the sealed packaging and submit the coin for professional authentication and grading. Or maybe it was discovered by a mint employee who recognized something extraordinary during production and, following proper protocols, reported the error and ensured the coin was preserved rather than destroyed. However it was found, the authentication process would have been extensive and rigorous, involving multiple independent experts examining the coin, conducting non-destructive tests to confirm its composition and authenticity, comparing it against other known specimens if any exist, and reaching consensus that yes, this is genuine, yes, it's as rare as it appears, and yes, it deserves to be recognized as one of the most valuable coins in existence. The numismatic community would have been buzzing with excitement when this coin was first revealed, with collectors and dealers sharing photos, discussing its characteristics, and speculating about its value. And when it finally came to auction, the event would have drawn international attention with wealthy collectors, investment funds, and museums all potentially competing for the privilege of ownership. The auction itself would have been a dramatic affair, possibly lasting hours as bids climbed higher and higher, each increment representing more money than most people earn in a lifetime, and the auctioneer would have been carefully managing the process, giving bidders time to consider their positions while building suspense and encouraging maximum participation. When the hammer finally fell at $900 million, it would have set a new benchmark for modern quarter values, a price so high that it makes headlines not just in numismatic publications but in mainstream financial media, and the buyer, whether an individual collector or an institution, would have made a statement about the importance they place on owning this irreplaceable piece of numismatic history. The $900 million price represents far more than just the coin's metal content or even its rarity. It represents the convergence of scarcity, condition, historical significance, and passionate collector demand, creating a valuation that transcends traditional investment metrics and enters the realm of trophy assets where normal financial calculations don't apply. The 1987 P quarter also benefits from being a relatively recent coin, which adds psychological appeal because it proves that valuable treasures aren't just ancient artifacts but can be found in coins from our own lifetimes, coins that many of us remember using or seeing when they were first issued. This modern origin story makes the coin more relatable and exciting to contemporary collectors who might have been alive in 1987, who remember the culture and events of that year, and who can imagine themselves potentially finding a similar treasure if they look carefully enough at their own coins. The technical analysis of this coin would reveal fascinating details about exactly what makes it so special. Spectroscopic analysis could confirm whether it's on the correct copper-nickel-clad planchet or on an exotic metal. Precise weight measurements could detect even tiny deviations from the standard 5.67 grams that would indicate a planchet error. Microscopic examination of die markers could identify exactly which die pair struck the coin and whether that die produced any other known errors, and comparison photography could document every detail of the coin's appearance for the historical record. All of this technical data becomes part of the coin's provenance and story, adding layers of authenticity and fascination that enhance its appeal to serious collectors who want to understand not just that a coin is rare, but exactly why it's rare and what specific circumstances created it. The market dynamics around ultra-rare coins like this $900 million quarter are fascinating to observe. There's a very small pool of potential buyers who have both the financial resources and the passion for numismatics to seriously consider such a purchase, and when one of these coins becomes available, it creates a unique opportunity that may never come again, because many of the finest rarities disappear into long-term collections and don't resurface on the market for decades or even generations. This scarcity of opportunity drives prices upward as collectors realize they may have only one chance in their lifetime to acquire a particular coin, and they're willing to pay premiums that might seem irrational to outsiders but make perfect sense within the context of elite collecting, where the goal isn't financial return but rather the achievement of building the finest possible collection and owning pieces that others can only dream about. The 1987 P quarter represents the ultimate achievement in modern quarter collecting, the coin that would complete any collection, the centerpiece that would be featured prominently in any museum display or private showcase, the conversation piece that would dominate any numismatic discussion. For those wondering whether they might have valuable 1987 P quarters in their own collections, the reality is that while the $900 million specimen is extraordinarily rare, there are other 1987 P errors and varieties worth searching for, including double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors on less exotic metals, and high-grade, uncirculated examples that might be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars even without major errors. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 582 million quarters in 1987, which means they're still commonly found in circulation today, and dedicated searchers who examine large quantities of coins have a realistic chance of finding something valuable, even if it's not the $900 million grand prize. The process of searching requires patience, good lighting, magnification equipment, and knowledge of what to look for, but the resources to learn are freely available online through numismatic websites, forums, and video tutorials where experienced collectors share their expertise and help newcomers understand what makes coins valuable. The hobby of coin collecting offers something for everyone, from casual searchers who just check their pocket change occasionally to serious numismatists who spend thousands of hours and significant money building comprehensive collections. And the beauty of it is that anyone, regardless of experience or resources, has a theoretical chance of making a significant discovery because valuable coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized and appreciated. The story of this $900 million 1987 P quarter should inspire us all to look more carefully at the coins we handle every day, to appreciate the artistry and history they represent, and to recognize that extraordinary value can hide in ordinary places. This coin, along with the three other incredible quarters we've discussed today, the 1968 quarter worth $820 million, the 1997 P quarter worth $854 million, and the 1973 D quarter worth $884 million, proves that the world of numismatics is filled with treasures waiting to be discovered, stories waiting to be told, and opportunities waiting to be seized by those who have the knowledge, patience, and dedication to search for them. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who's never thought much about coins before, I hope these stories have opened your eyes to the fascinating possibilities that exist in pocket change and coin collections, and I encourage you to start looking at your quarters with fresh eyes, because you never know, that ordinary-looking quarter in your hand might just be worth a fortune, and the only way to find out is to look carefully, learn what to search for, and never stop being curious about the coins that pass through your hands every day. The world of rare coins is a world of endless fascination, where history, artistry, economics, and human passion intersect to create one of the most engaging hobbies imaginable. And now that you know it's possible, now that you've heard these incredible stories of ordinary quarters transformed into extraordinary treasures, you're equipped with the knowledge and inspiration to begin your own numismatic journey. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be telling your story, the story of how you discovered a coin worth millions simply by paying attention and refusing to let a potential treasure slip through your fingers unnoticed.